Oh, hey, excuse me, sir? Excuse me? Sir, excuse me? Excuse me, sir? Oh, you're tarnished. Yeah. I have a question for you, mister. How can I become Elden Lord? And you want to become Elden Lord. Look, kid, you can't become Elden Lord. You got no runes, no build, no maidens. How about you go outside and touch some grace and get some maidens? Then maybe you can become Elden Lord. Oh yeah, and before you go, here, take this. You smell worse than a dung eater. I'll show you! I'll show everyone I can become Elden Lord without any maidens! Hey, that's a nice horse. Wait, whoa, what are you doing? Whoa! From Software. What the hell is this? You didn't tell me that Elden Ring would be this big, giant, massive, steaming pile of epicness. Like, seriously, this game is amazing. And I really do mean it. From Software came out the gate swinging with Elden Ring. Everything from the open world, the music, the combat, the lore, everything here is just done so well. This might already be game of the year. And as someone who's never played any of the Dark Souls before, Elden Ring would be my first foray into the Souls-like combat. Well, not actually. My first From Software game was actually Sekiro. And going into Elden Ring, I thought it would be a lot like Sekiro. And if you've played Elden Ring and Sekiro, they are nothing alike. Like, I learned that very quickly into Elden Ring. But even though I was stuck on these bosses for hours, it never truly felt like I was hard stuck on them because Elden Ring does such an incredible job of making this game accessible and friendly to newer players, and that is because of what is probably the best part of the game, the world. The world of Elden Ring is probably one of the best open worlds I've seen in a while. From Software really took a risk with the Souls formula of the pretty linear level design and tried to go with the open world this time, and I have to say that worked wonderfully. Elden Ring puts a lot of these generic and lifeless open worlds to shame with its sheer vastness and density of life. Ubisoft developers could learn a thing or two about how to make an interesting open world from Elden Ring, and maybe instead of trying to bash the game, they should really be taking notes on how not to make a generic and formulaic open world. But that's beside the point. First of all, the lands between is absolutely massive. Not only is this map massive, but it's full of things to do. Hidden secrets, dungeons to loot, optional bosses to kill, with the ability to go anywhere the eye can see. You see a castle off in the distance? You can go there. You see a dude standing alone way off in the distance, brooding menacingly? You can go there. And it feels so liberating that there are very few visible walls or linear paths to get in the way of your exploration. Many times I would just get lost in exploring the world of the lands between while on the way to the next story boss or next dungeon. And I love how the world's completely unforgiving and brutal. Anything and everything can and will kill you if you're not careful. It's you versus the world, and you can never let your guard down for too long because there's danger around every corner. Really? But it's so rewarding once you've conquered and triumphed over the bullshit that this game likes to throw at you. I beat it! I beat it! Oh, I beat him!
I shall remember thee, time,
Oh, I beat it!
smouldering with thy meager flame.
Oh my god.
Cower in fear of the night.
That was only the first boss.
Fell omen shall brook thee no quarter.
That was only the first boss. Even though the world is brutal, it can be also amazingly beautiful at times, with each biome having such distinct variation. And the best part is, From Software have managed to return to the good old days of open world design, with each and every corner of the map filled with interesting landmarks and unique points of interest, and very little UI clutter. And I love how almost every area is unique looking. In the 67 hours of my playthrough, I've explored about 85% of the map, and I can confidently say that there are no recycled areas. Each zone, each dungeon feels uniquely crafted, making them all more memorable, like the underground city under the stars, or the giant, massive lake of rot with the demon crows and Kaled, or even the village with the grandmas tripping balls. What the? Should I kill them? There's just so much of this world to explore that even after 67 hours of gameplay, I still miss so much. I could have easily clocked in 100 hours and I still would have a lot to do in this game. It's just insane how much content there is, and the best part is, none of it is level gated. You can go literally anywhere, anytime, and that is the best part of the open world. So if you're stuck on a boss, you can just go do something else. Explore a new area, loot a dungeon, kill some bosses, and then come back when you got some more levels and new gear. It never truly feels like you're stuck on a boss because of the amount of options that you have compared to older From Software titles. Like for example, in Sekiro, if you're stuck in Sword Saint Ishin, tough shit, get good. But it's such a breath of fresh air that you can just leave whenever you want and then go do whatever and then come back when you get stronger at your own pace, making Elden Ring unironically easier and more accessible to new players of the Soul series. And let's talk about why it's so fun to get lost in this world for hours and hours on end and not even get bored once. And it's just because there's so much reward for exploring and going out of your way to look for secrets and completing dungeons. Like I said earlier, most of this world is uniquely crafted with very few recycled areas, keeping exploration exciting and fresh the entire time. Not only that, but the rewards for exploring and completing dungeons are unique and useful every time, making the exploration exciting. The one problem I really have with this world is that they tend to reuse a lot of the same bosses. And I mean, I know this game is huge and it's unreasonable for the developers to create a unique boss for each encounter, but I feel like From Software took too much liberty when reusing the same bosses. Even though I feel like these bosses were reused a bit too much, it's not that big of a deal because these bosses, the various monsters, and all the wildlife, they all look amazing because the graphics and visuals are just so good. Oftentimes while I'm exploring, I'll just stop and admire the view of the area because the game can be absolutely stunning at times with the combination of the dynamic weather effects mixed in with the sheer amount of detail. And just the sheer attention to detail is insane and really makes this game feel immersive. For example, during battle, there would just be stuff flying everywhere, painting the surrounding areas in a mess of blood, dirt, and shit. And it's just so satisfying to me to see my character after a fight and see that he's just drenched in blood. This one small detail really makes the world feel brutal and gruesome. Now, enough about how good the world looks in Elden Ring. How good is the gameplay in Elden Ring? Well, in my opinion, the gameplay is incredibly fun. There's just so many cool badass Ashes of War and spells that you can do that are also flashy and over the top. It's awesome. Elden Ring is probably the most anime that a Souls game has ever been. Not only that, but as I said earlier, this is probably the most forgiving Souls game out of the genre. Most of the hardcore Souls players would agree that Elden Ring is probably the easiest game in the series, and after playing it, I can see why. There's just so many more options for newer players outside of bosses if they ever get stuck on one. And leveling is more streamlined. No longer do you have to grind the same mobs in order to get stronger. You can just go explore some caves, or raid a fort, or go kill a side boss and get a bunch of runes that way. Or you can always just get good. Just kidding. Anyways, the process of level up has been made fun and more of a positive side effect of playing the game the way it was intended. And summons. Summons make the game so much easier, especially if you're using the Mimic tier. It's a night and day difference in difficulty levels with and without summons. Just take a look.
Is mine.
Alright, yeah, I'm tired of this. Tough boss. Summons in this game nearly trivialize most of the bosses in this game that would otherwise be pretty difficult solo. I mean, there's always co-op, which you can do with one or two other friends, but there are downsides to that, like enemies getting more health and being open invasions. But there's just so many options for a new player that they can utilize to make their experience so much less frustrating. Now, just because you can make your experience a lot easier, don't think that this is some Care Bear Babies version of a Souls game. This game is still difficult, and only the most alpha, Giga Chad, hardcore gamers are allowed to play this game. And then, this guy was really mean and said I was meaningless. It's not my fault. I'm a condition. and then this boss was really mean and said I could become Elden Lord. And then he said, "Put those foolish ambitions to rest." This game is too hard and everyone's so scary. Cut the video, cut the video! Elden Ring thankfully still retains the difficulty of a Souls game if players choose to play completely solo with no summons, with some of the bosses being really challenging, taking me multiple tries and sometimes even hours to defeat, even with summons. Some of these bosses might probably be some of the hardest in the series, and it just makes it all the more satisfying when you do finally beat them. I don't know how he would beat this well as some.
The true Lord.
And speaking of bosses, it's crazy how many bosses there are in this game. There are around 157 bosses in this game, and 103 of them are unique. Well, to be fair, a lot of them are recycled or a variant, but still, 103 unique bosses is a crazy amount, even for a game of this scale. Now, even though I praise the bosses in Elden Ring, I do have one problem with how FromSoft approaches difficulty later throughout the game. Because as you progress later in the game, the boss fights become more and more gimmicky and just straight up unfun. Like the Godskin duo, who are just on their own pretty annoying to deal with, but now you have to fight both of them at the same time. Woo. I can't even imagine how frustrating this and the other gimmick bosses are without summons. And on the topic of disappointing bosses, the final boss just sucked. It was the equivalent of a wet fart underwater. Forgettable and disappointing. I'm not going to spoil too much about that fight, but it just felt way too easy and the boss did nothing interesting but just run away a lot. But other than that boss and other gimmick bosses, most of the boss fights in the game are actually pretty unique and enjoyable. Now, I want to talk about one of Elden Ring's biggest strengths in its gameplay, and that's its build diversity. The amount of build diversity in this game is astounding, with nearly everything being viable. Katanas, great swords, hammers, magic incantations, and so much more. It's just so interesting how much From Software is given to us, and it's just so fun to see what people can come up with. Every weapon, every spell has their own purpose, and it's just amazing to see all the creative builds that people can come up with. Personally, I went for a bloody slash build with dual wielding Uchi katanas until they nerfed it, and then I went to Rivers of Blood. Yeah, I'm not a very creative person. But that's beside the point. You can make a build out of almost everything in this game, and it gives the game so much replay value because of it. Now, I can't talk about the gameplay without talking about how great the music is. Music that accompanies the gameplay and enhances the experience so much, with most of the songs in this OST being epic and grand that give you just an overall sense of grandeur. Man, what a long day of work. Can't wait to play Elden Ring for the first time. Not only are there epic songs that make you feel like you're overcoming a massive looming threat, David and Goliath style, but there are also some more ambient pieces that are used while exploring the open world, and they just give some more atmospheric feel, like the eerie music of Caelid. Or the loneliness in the consecrated snowfield. The music, the world, the gameplay just come together to create an immaculate experience for the player that they'll never forget. When the music, the gameplay, the graphics run on all cylinders, this game could easily be one of the best games that From Software has ever released. But there is one major issue that plagues this game, and that's the performance issues. The frame rate in Elden Ring fluctuates from buttery smooth to a slideshow a lot of the times, on PC at least, and this would mostly happen in the open world sections.
But the stuttering on PC is pretty hard to overlook right now, and that I think From Software has issued a statement about that, thankfully, to say they're looking at it. But yeah, for console, there's been no word whatsoever in terms of their latest updates about what's going to happen with the new patch.
Which really, it makes you wonder if they even have the capacity to fix this. Obviously you could.
Now, normally I would usually forgive small hiccups like this if they're infrequent, but they're not. Small frame skips, lag, screen stuttering, they happen way too often, and oftentimes during combat too, where you need the game to be running as smooth as possible because every input matters in these fights. Unfortunately, the performance issues are the biggest blemish that Elden Ring has, and even then, they're still not that major. Hopefully From Software can fix these in the future, and if they do manage to fix these, Elden Ring could become one of the best games to release this year. Speaking of best games of the year, the cherry on top of this sweet, sweet, delicious cake is that there are no microtransactions whatsoever in Elden Ring. Absolutely none. In an age where every game is trying to nickel and dime the players around every corner, every publisher is trying to shovel this live service bullshit down everyone's throats while ripping out content and then feeding back to the players piece by piece in these shitty DLCs. Or they create an artificial problem in their games and then sell you the solution. Ubisoft. Sadly, this is just so common in this day and age that it's become the norm. But in this bleak age of gaming, Elden Ring stands out clean and pristine in this swamp of shit that is the current gaming industry. Elden Ring is a fully complete game from beginning to end with no bullshit, no microtransactions, and no strings attached. And we need to praise the developers and publishers that don't try to milk their player base dry at every corner they can and just try to make a good game. That's all we want. A good game. So with this, let's get into the final verdict of Elden Ring. Now, I love how beautifully the world is crafted with such sheer diversity in locales, biomes, with every point of interest being unique enough to not feel recycled, and the complete freedom to go wherever you please makes the game a more relaxing experience. And hidden secrets are everywhere in Elden Ring, so that means exploration is often rewarded with interesting and cool loot. And couple this with the difficulty of the Souls genre, makes this game brutally difficult and unforgiving, but not too unforgiving because Elden Ring has probably the most options of any Souls game for newer players to make their experience easier. What's also great about Elden Ring is the sheer build diversity and being able to use any armor, any weapon, any spell, and still make it viable. And it gives this game so much replayability. And the amount of unique bosses there are in this game is insane. And the musical score mwah, is impeccable, and it perfectly enhances the atmosphere and the emotions that the players are meant to feel during gameplay. And the best part is that it's a fully complete game with no microtransactions whatsoever. But Elden Ring does have some minor issues, however, most of them being technical and can be easily patched out. Things like lag spikes, visual bugs, PvP exploits. These can all be fixed within a patch. Some of the bigger problems in Elden Ring are stuff that can't be patched out, like gimmicky bosses. Sometimes there are wonky camera issues during fights, and just input buffering in general. All of these can get pretty annoying at times, but it still didn't ruin my experience with Elden Ring, and I still had a blast from beginning to end. And because of that, I'm going to give this game a 10 out of 10 score. This game is a masterpiece and will probably be one of the best games to release for years to come. And I completely recommend that you buy this game if you haven't already. If you've never played a Souls-like game before or want to get into it, Elden Ring is the best start for a newcomer in the Souls series, and is already a strong entry into the already great Souls genre. Go buy this game if you haven't already, and make sure you like and subscribe for more game reviews, because the next game review is going to be on Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise. Alright, see ya. Oh, hey, excuse me, sir? Excuse me? Sir, excuse me? Excuse me, sir? Oh, you're tarnished. You can't become Elden Lord. You got no runes, no build, no meaning. I'll show you! I'll show everyone I can become Elden Lord without any maidens! I did it. I beat the final boss. I can finally become Elden Lord. Oh, congratulations to our fellow Tarnished for defeating the last boss. As a reward, here is your prize. What is this? Where's the rest of it? What do you mean? Where's the Elden Ring? Oh, you want to become Elden Lord. Yeah, you see, the boss you just killed wasn't Elden Lord, that was the Onion Lord. And since you slayed him, you're the new Onion Lord. So you're saying I did all this for an onion ring? Not just any onion ring, the onion ring.